Jeffrey, now you're hanging out in New York again, but this time with John Lennon. How did that come about?
Well, this was a job I was hired by the record company. Now this is post-Beatles, 1971, and John and Yoko were doing an interview with Alex Bennett, I believe, was the DJ. It was WPLJ Radio, which is an ABC affiliate. So if you can imagine, we're in this tall skyscraper in Manhattan, and that's the radio station. So I first photographed him and Yoko being interviewed by the DJ, and they were behind glass, and I had to be outside that studio. And then afterwards, we went into a conference room and to do the trade shots, which were shots that I did for the record company that were presented to Billboard magazine and Cashbox and Record World and whomever else needed that kind of photograph from this type of an event. So the shot was of John and Yoko with the management of the radio station as well as the people from the record company. And then I was able to do a few shots of John and Yoko just literally sitting at this conference table. And as you can imagine, John was an idol of mine, and this is the first time I'd ever met him. And I was a little bit anxious, and I think he picked up on those vibes. But being the gentleman that he is and was, he said, "Look, we're here for you. Just take your time." And I banged off a few frames of him and Yoko, and then him alone. And then, of course, that was after I did the trade shots for the record company. Yeah.
And what's on his button?
That is Pat Boone on that button that he's wearing. And
well, that makes sense, a Beatle wearing a Pat Boone button.
Yeah, he had a sense of humor, obviously. And that sweater, I think, has been seen in other photographs by other photographers. But yeah, it was a pretty, it was a pretty quick kind of thing, but it was very nice and obviously pretty extraordinary for me, because that was one of the few times I ever shot John. I shot him, I think they did some other kind of thing in Syracuse, New York, and I shot there, as well as one time when I shot Bob Dylan at the Isle of Wight Festival. 3 of the Beatles, John, George, and Ringo, were in the VIP section of the audience right in front of the stage, because Dylan had a motorcycle accident 3 years before, and that was the first performance that he had done in 1969 at the Isle of Wight Festival, which was right after Woodstock in England. And so that was one other time I shot kind of a pap shot of him sitting in the audience.
Well, that's a great moment in time.